This is a quick introduction to my LifeDecoder app. So here's the icon, and when you initially open it, you get this screen that says Decode Your Life, find the hidden connections in your life, and learn what works best for you in the short and long term. So the first time you use this, you'll need to create a new user account. Mind you, this data is only just stored on your own phone, and it doesn't share the data with anyone else unless you actively choose to do that and decide which data variables to share and with whom. But otherwise, it's all just kept private. In fact, this username information can be totally random, not connected anyway to your actual personality. So here, I will put in a username for this example. I'll put in a password, very terrible password, which I don't recommend. And then there's an option, password hint, in case you forget what your password is. Then since it's not connected to your email, you have to have some other way to help remember it later on. Okay, we'll hit submit. And as soon as you've created an account for the first time, it'll ask you if you want to add any default mood variables. If you're not interested in ever measuring your own mood, you can just hit cancel for this. But if you're thinking you might, you can choose to add them, and then you can use them or not. And if you find that you're just never using them, you can always have the option to delete them. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to hit cancel. And so here we have the main screen, and we haven't measured any variables yet, it says. So let's click the Measure a Variable button. And the only option here is to add a new variable. There's none we haven't created any to choose yet, so we'll click that add new variable, ask for a name. So you can measure anything you're interested in your life. So say you're interested in measuring your body weight, so I'll put that, body weight. And then for measuring variables, there's 4 options. If it's a variable where every time you're going to enter a number, so for body weight, that probably most likely one, that'd be the first option there, numeric. On the other hand, if you're measuring on a scale, such as moods, there's 2 options for that. There's a unipolar scale, that's a 0 to 100 scale, where it only just increases, or there's a bipolar scale that goes from -100 to +100 and 0, kind of neutral in the middle. And then lastly, there's the option where you can measure variable just in terms of event. Every time it happened, you can record it. So for body weight, I'm going to choose the first option, numeric. And then it asks you what units of measurement will body weight be measured in. For example, kilograms in this case, whatever. For my body weight, the bathroom scale I use tends to be pounds, so I'll put the abbreviation for pounds there. And then there's an option here too that every time you measure it, if you want to have instructions for how to measure it, to kind of remind yourself of what you're doing, you can do that here, but this is optional. You can just leave it blank and click OK if you not worried about remembering how to measure your variables. And then lastly, it asks you if there's any other variables you'd like to have automatically computed each time you input that variable. For body weight, there isn't really anything, but sometimes for other variables, there's like if you're measuring every time you eat apples and you want to also have it automatically calculate that's also added to the number of fruit that you ate that day, or added to how many calories you ate that day. Rather than having to record those all separately, you can program it so it just remembers every time you enter in that you ate an apple, automatically update all those other computed variables too. But for this example, just hit no, and then it's creating that variable now. And here it is. So now we can actually put a first input on body weight. And so here it has by default the current date. And unless you change it, otherwise it assumes the episode is just the minimum duration, 1 second long. So here we've recorded our body weight, say it was 200 pounds. And there is an option here to add additional notes, which is entirely optional. You don't have to add notes, but say you can add a note if you want. Had a big lunch. There you go. Entirely optional, adding the notes. Then you can hit OK. And when you hit OK, it processes the data. What it does is that it automatically updates all the statistics for that variable. So for that episode's hour, its averages and standard deviations and so on. And same thing for the day that episode was part of, and the month and the year. It updates all its statistics, so that then when you are interested in saying, okay, what else of all the other variables I measure, what else is most related to it, it doesn't have to do those calculations later on. It's all stored and indexed now, so it's there. And that's basically it. Once you've measured more than 2 variables, and you've measured several episodes with them, then there is options to find out, choose one variable and find out which of all the other variables you've measured is best correlated with it. So you can choose that best option. Right now we haven't measured enough variables to be able to do that, but you can go in there and choose that option, and it'll list it and show all your variables, and choose which one and which time frames you wish to have it analyze across, and it'll then tell you, it'll list all the correlates in order of strength of what other variables are most strongly correlated with the variable you're interested in. And there's also the option to graph the data visually as well, to analyze what your data looks like too. And that's it for this brief introduction. Hopefully I'll create more videos that'll go into more details about some of the nuances with this app.